Cruise round South America in Star Princess in December 2018, Part 4. Talk about Project Fear. For weeks the cruise director on board ship had been scaring the socks off us all by warning that when we reached the roaring 40s and rounded Cape Horn, we'd be experiencing 15-foot swells and would have to ensure we'd eaten plenty of apples and ginger to ward off seasickness. Well, we got here, and what did we find? The Horn was a pussycat. I'd seen rougher seas crossing the English Channel. Disappointed? Well, to be honest, not really.
Waves, winds, ice surf.
Two lighthouses are located near or in Cape Horn. One is located in the Chilean Navy Station and is commonly referred to as the Cape Horn Lighthouse. On Cape Horn proper is a smaller 4-metre fiberglass light tower with a range of about 21 kilometres. This is the authentic Cape Horn lighthouse, and as such is the world's southernmost traditional lighthouse. The Albatross Monument at Cape Horn has a marble plaque which reads, "I, the albatross that awaits at the end of the world, I am the forgotten soul of the sailors lost, rounding Cape Horn from all the seas of the world, but die they did not in the fierce waves. For today towards eternity in my wings they soar, in the last crevice of the Antarctic winds." The lighthouse keeper at Cape Horn lives there with his wife and family for several months at a time. It's got to be one of the remotest jobs in the world, and you wonder how they manage to keep going, particularly in fierce weather. It looks as though she's anchored and possibly putting people ashore to visit the lighthouse, which is possible on using ribs. Navigation here must be a bit of a headache. It's clear from what you see that there are jagged rocks just under the surface, pretty much all over the place. Next stop, Port Stanley in the Falkland Islands. Getting ashore was a bit of a breeze. First impressions of Stanley, really, it looks more like a Norwegian town rather than a British one, given the little houses with different coloured roofs. This ship apparently getting ready to go down to the Antarctic. A London bus. The inside of the cathedral is a bit austere and a bit reminiscent of a Scottish Presbyterian church, actually. But what do I know? The whalebone arch in the cathedral grounds was raised in 1933 to celebrate 100 years of British rule on the islands. Lupins everywhere. They seem to be the ubiquitous garden flowers that you see down here in the South Atlantic. These inscriptions carved into the hillside commemorate ships that were involved in the Falklands War. This is an upland goose. They're everywhere around Port Stanley. The only problem with them is that they lay their doings all over the grass. the mizzenmast of the SS Great Britain, the first deep-sea iron screw-propelled steamship, designed and built at Bristol by Brunel. In 1937 she was abandoned in Sparrow Cove on the Falklands. She was salvaged in 1969 and what was left of her carried back to Bristol on a barge where she's displayed. Yup, even on the Falklands, I'm afraid. A nice tribute to an ex-Prime Minister for what she did. The Battle of the Falklands between the Royal Navy and the Imperial German Navy was fought on 8th December 1914 during the First World War. After the defeat at the Battle of Coronel on 1st November, the British sent a large force to track down and destroy the victorious German squadron. Admiral Graf von Spee, commanding the German squadron, attempted to raid the British supply base at Stanley in the Falklands. The British squadron had arrived in port the day before, unbeknown to the Germans, and all except the German auxiliary were pursued and sunk. We're off to Gypsy Cove to meet the Magellanic penguins and anybody else who decides to turn up. An upland goose, right on cue, and it's got some chicks. No, this is not an upland goose. These are known locally as diddle-dee berries and can be made into jam. The bays around Stanley are littered with old shipwrecks, which have just been left there to rot, basically. I believe this is called Moore's Plantain. It's basically hard to the touch and is hollow inside. Somebody's hideaway here. Come back, wait for us. There's a penguin's nest in there. Difficult to see. At last, a Magellanic penguin. So what are you lot staring at? Beetle off. Obviously siesta time. You have to be careful where you walk in the Falklands because there are still some minefields around. In particular, the rule is don't cross any fences. Which is the way home? The Falklands is a very close-knit community. Everyone basically has 2 or more jobs. For example, the local guide that we had to take us to Gypsy Cove, from Liverpool. Been here for a year and a half, and he's basically a physiotherapist, just doing tours in his spare time. The second guide we had who took us back in the minibus is a social worker. She's a retired Justice of the Peace. She also paints, runs a mental health charity, and does her own role. So it's obviously a very, as I say, a very close-knit community, and it really is quite a very impressive place, really.